I'm here and very happy to be here. Can't wait to hear everyone's questions. I do want to say that we'd like this to be lovely and interactive. So answering your questions is going to be what we're hoping to do. And that is, it's always fun to hear from you. We love hearing where you are. We love hearing what you're up to. It's kind of fun sometimes when we talk. We had a pitching class recently and we talked about log lines and stuff. So whatever, it's open for you. We're here for you. I can't promise I'm going to know the answers to all the questions. I'm just gonna put that out there up front. You know what I mean? No one knows everything, right? I think even Sean said that.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious what everybody thinks of this format. I love it. I think it's really cool. It's the second time we've done this, and I like seeing all the comments. I love seeing where everyone is from. Hello, Miriam. Miriam's one of my story farm writers. Jeffrey's like on the ball. Question. Colon. We'll get to that, Jeffrey.
Tom's just asked me if I've got my teeth in, and that's a direct callback, which I like, a direct callback to our pitch workshop that we did, because there were times when I didn't feel like I didn't have my teeth in. So they are in today. It's a bit later in the day, but I do live by myself, and quite often I haven't spoken to anyone all day. So then it's a bit like,
you're on Zoom quite a bit. You're speaking to,
yeah. But it's like, how do these work again?
Yeah. Other people. Wait a minute. There are other people in the world?
Hello
from Sydney. We've got New York, the Finger Lakes area. Hello from Toronto, New York City, San Francisco, Memphis. I just love seeing where everybody's from. I'm still in Wisconsin. I've been here since the beginning of time, it seems. I love Wisconsin. I love the Midwest. But I am heading out to Los Angeles in a little less than a week. It's going to be the first time in 2 years I've been to LA. It's going to be very strange driving into town again.
It's going to be fun, though. I would be interested to see how different you feel it is, because obviously you left to see your mum at the beginning of March 2020, and we all know what happened next.
Get stuck here.
Yeah, so a lot of the stores have changed, and kind of like the feeling of areas maybe have swapped out a bit. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think, because I've been here the whole time, so I didn't go anywhere. I was in Hollywood and now back to West Hollywood, which is my favorite area. So yeah.
It's going to be, I might have to cover up the comment section because I keep getting drawn to all of everybody's comments. But today's event, it's one of the first times we've done this. It's going to be kind of like a little bit of an open office hours session in a way. So for all of you watching, you are welcome to ask any question that you like, of course, within reason. And like Felicity said, we may not have the perfect answer for you, but we will do our best to answer those questions.
Yes. We have a few announcements because that's how it has to be. And it's mainly just to encourage you to use the site, because we did do a big rebuild and it was launched softly in October 2022. Still growing and being improved, and we're working out bugs. But there's a lot of stuff, if you're a free member, that you can sign up for that I don't think was there before, like ISA Insider, and you can still put all your scripts up on the site. So make sure you do have a good poke around in there and have a look at all the different kind of bits and pieces that you can work for your advantage. ISA Connect is a bit more of an elevated version, as we know, for it's $10 a month or $99 for the year, but you do get 4 free contests, which is worth more than that kind of money anyway, and access to writing gigs. Although we have had a few writing gigs that have been open to all, because it's such a specific ask or a wide ask. So we do look at the website. I think that's the thing, is like the Writers Showcase. We have a look there every week, and that's, again, if you're not a paid member, that's free for you to put your stuff up on the Writers Showcase. And I'm always checking it out to see if there's a script there that I haven't heard of or that seems to be doing well in festivals or accolades. Posting your success stories, I edit them. So I read everyone's success stories. So if you've got something going on, you need to tell me. You need to write it in your success stories, because I read them and I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. I'm honestly looking for you.
Yeah. Well, success stories are so huge because it's a segue into how you, Felicity, or anybody, if I was reaching out on a writer's behalf or something, we would be able to use some of reference in terms of what you have found or how have you have found success in the past as a way to help sell you. So if you do have any amount of success, post it on your ISA website. You quite literally have nothing to lose. The more filled out your profile looks, the better. It's just, this person is active, this person's trying, this person's working hard. Really utilize that website profile. I see all these questions popping in. Our fabulous editor and really in like executive producer of this show, in a way, like this is like a real TV like production center that YouTube is putting on here. But Scott is going to star all these questions, so don't worry, you can just post them, and even though we may not respond right away, they are being starred, and we'll go through all these questions. I've already seen quite a few that are awesome, and we do have some topics in case we there's a little bit of a lull. Felicity and I will bounce into those topics, but we also have our Fast Track Fellowship. Do we want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the thing about the Fast Track Fellowship, again, it is our premier. It is a contest, but we don't like to call it a contest because it is a fellowship. Although there is an entry fee. However, if you're ISA Connect, then you actually do get a free entry to it. But it's kind of our way of really spotlighting a writer that is just on the brink of really tipping over into having a career. We tend to choose writers that have several projects so that they can be in a room and talk about ideas and then other things they've been working on if the screenplay that got them the fellowship isn't correct for the mentor they're meeting. But it's 8 mentor meetings in a week, and I do know who this year's fellows that will be announced in 2 days' time are, and I did give them a little heads up today. This is top secret, you mustn't tell anyone. But it's but I did say to them, because I know one of them in particular is terrified of meetings, and I said the thing about the Fast Track Fellowship is by the end of the week, the end of 8 meetings, you're so blasé about it, you're so like, oh, meeting schmeeting, it's you just get into a completely different headspace around it. You've already worked out your own origin story, and your way of talking about your screenplays has been practiced with different types of people asking their own kind of variation on a question. So I think you do become very skilled in it, and it is just a technique and something you can learn. And then it's about finding you as a human. So that is also part of it.
And totally, it's a big part of just getting comfortable in your own skin. But we can talk about contests. We do have some things we can chat about, and I already saw some questions pop up. But I do want to point out that Jamie Handley from California, I'm just throwing that out there because she said such a nice thing. Thank you, Jamie. That's a very nice thing of you to say. She's not on my payroll, but I appreciate that. And let's see, I think we've covered pretty much all the intros, right? We have a whole bunch of other events, everybody. We do want to point out, you're obviously on YouTube watching this. It takes, I think, the strength of this to then click like on the video and or subscribe to our channel. It really does make a difference. And you hear it all the time on all these YouTube videos. Please like and subscribe. There's a reason people are saying that, is because it gets our content out there that much more. And I think it's important to note, everything that's on YouTube is totally free. And so if anybody is having, a little bit of a struggle in terms of affording your education, you can basically have a full free education just through our YouTube channel. So take advantage of that as much as possible. And
sign up for your free Network ISA account and read ISA Insider, because that's free too.
That's free too. Lots of things are for free. Vaughn is asking, how do we get on Max's payroll?
Good question, Vaughn. I might ask him too.
I don't have a payroll, so let's hit some of these questions. What do you think, Felicity? You want to just let's go through. I'll start with one right at the top. So Jeffrey has a couple. Jeffrey came in swinging here, so we'll hit some of Jeffrey's. How can I learn how to be a screenwriter if I can't afford to get education and learn how to be one? In a way, we kind of answered that, but it's a really good question, Jeffrey. And I think a lot of writers deal with this. And there you go. Felicity's showing John Truby is a wealth of information. There are a lot of books that you can pick up and read. Honestly, YouTube is a huge resource, but I think, and I'm pretty sure Felicity will agree, I don't like speaking for Felicity, but read as many screenplays as you possibly can. That really is the easiest and cheapest form of education. Read at all of them, like find any movie that you just watched, or try not to read anything prior to like 1995 or 6 or something, because the format looks so different. But you can Google, liar, liar PDF or whatever the movie might be, and you'll probably find it. And so that, I think, would be the easiest and least expensive way.
Yeah. And you don't need to buy books. You can go to the library. I can hear myself kind of like reverbing back. Can you hear me reverbing back?
Oh, no, I can't.
Okay. You can go to the library to borrow some books. I think there are certain ones that are worth the investment. This John Truby one, which is called The Anatomy of Story, is $19, which is a couple of coffees, 3 coffees, something like that. So I mean, it's worth it for your education. I think YouTube, but we do talk a lot about how we had one writer, she's a screenwriter now, but she was a reader for the ISA for maybe about 18 months. And before that, she was a novelist. So she hadn't kind of come from nowhere, she hadn't been, but she always used to write her stories out in long form, in the novel format. And then she started reading for the ISA, and then she became a screenwriter. And now she's so good at it because she's read so many scripts and she knows what she likes and what she doesn't like. As in, like, there are a certain kind of way that people tell story, and she kind of found her own voice inside it. She hasn't copied the screenplays that she's read, but she has absorbed so much of the structure and the character telling and in nuances that you can get from reading people's scripts. Often as well, I like actors that turn into writers because they have read more scripts than screenwriters, just because you have to read them for auditioning for roles. So yeah, I think that's a really good bit of advice.
Yeah. And then Jeffrey's also asking, and this is kind of a big question, Jeffrey, so I don't know how specific we'll be able to get, but how can I submit my idea for a movie if I can't afford an entertainment lawyer? I would say it's tricky to submit just an idea. You usually need a finished project or a product in some way. There are many resources across the screenwriting industry, at the very least, where you can submit your projects to, like the ISA's writing gigs. Writing gigs are huge. We get so many submissions to those writing gigs, which is impressive. But there are a lot of other screenwriting resources out there that are not affiliated with our company. There are ways to try to get your projects in front of people. Ideas alone, rarely from new writers or writers who have yet to be produced anyway, will rarely get set up unless you have, like an A-list actor or something attached to the idea. But you don't always need representation. A lot of times when you're reaching out, like cold outreach to a company, and they say, we don't accept unsolicited material. What that means is that they need some kind of an agent or an attorney to submit on your behalf, because they need to be protected. But not every company requests that.
Yeah. And the thing is, if it is a really good idea, maybe you could consider creating a proof of concept about it. Maybe you could, I don't know, submit to the film school in your area and see if someone, maybe get some students, see if they'd be interested in working with you as a writer. Or, I just think having something that shows your idea. We talk about whether pitch decks are useful for movies or not, but I still think they are. They are a good way of being able to show someone in a shorthand that you have this idea fully fleshed out. This is the tone of it. This is the genre. These are the characters that are going to be involved, and this is the story. So I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because it does feel so far away, but you just have to build your writer's resume in the meantime. And I promise you, people are looking. People look at our contests and see who the winners are. And
I totally agree. And that's going back to what you were talking about, Felicity, as far as success stories. You really do have to take your time to build your career without technically having big success. And so I think there's this kind of a relativity as far as what success actually is. Success is not just getting a movie produced. It's it's getting a meeting, it's doing well in a writer's group, it's getting great notes back from a consultant, or winning or placing highly in contests. And you've got to be doing this constantly. with many scripts, many projects. And I think I've told this story before, which I don't need to go into too long, but I remember overhearing a producer talking to a young new writer who had just moved to town. And he told this new writer that you're not a screenwriter until you've written 10 screenplays. And I cringed so hard when I heard him say that, because you're just going to kill this poor inspired person. But I understand what he's saying, because it takes that much time to really be able to find your voice and find your talent. And so really write as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, be good. And also as well, I mean, like, that way to sort the wheat from the chaff, right? I mean, like, if you really want to do it, then 10 screenplays, like, okay, okay. Or even if they're not completely finished, but you have fleshed out ideas for them. Jordan Trappier is one of our creative execs at the ISA, but she's also a screenwriter. And I would say she pitches me a new idea maybe 3 times a week. She is an idea machine.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Ideas, seriously, ideas can come from anywhere. I think what Jordan is so good at, not that we need to go off on this tangent, but she's so good at quickly seeing a story, the possibility of one, because of the very specific elements that are part of any story. You have some form of this type of flawed character meeting this type of situation with these stakes. And once you kind of get like a little triangle going, you can start filling in the blanks. And you're like, oh, there's something there. I can work with it a little bit. And I think it's just smart to test an idea. What do you think of this idea? It just popped in my head last night. Is it even worth it? It helps to have that crew of people to be able to bounce ideas.
Yeah. Then it's down to the layering, because it's not plug and play ultimately.
No.
It's about themes and
sadly,
arcs,
it's not that easy. Yeah.
Delicious.
Next question, Tom Lowe is asking. This is a big question, and he's asking, how do you go about crafting the first sentence of a pitch? We just spent 3-day weekend a couple weekends ago, pretty much bearing down and trying to focus on exactly that. But I think it depends on the type of pitch, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you need to start with the kind of, you need to hook us in. That first line is about like getting us on board. We want to know what it is. We want to know why it is, and we want to have a good understanding of why we should be excited about it in that first line, I would say.
Yeah, I think connecting yourself to, if it's a verbal pitch, and we're not talking about written. So if it's a verbal pitch, yeah, I'd want to connect myself to whatever story I'm trying to write. There was this one time when I woke up in the middle of the night and there was this ghostly woman floating over my bed, and I laughed hysterically because I just could not believe it was real.
That was Max's sister, actually, rather than
yeah, that's not my story
from real life.
That actually happened. So Tom is saying it's a verbal pitch. Yeah, I would connect myself with it so that you're kind of putting yourself into a situation that then will segue into what this story is going to be. And it's quick and easy and kind of fun, but it also matches the tone of your project, which I think is a big deal. We don't need to start just with a formal log line. That's kind of boring.
No. You want to get a bit of personality in there at the beginning. I think the why you wrote it, kind of everyone goes like, everyone's so nosy. We don't realize how nosy we are, but we're so nosy. So if you can give us a good reason why, and you can make it up. It doesn't have to have happened to you. I think that'll be a funny story over wine later when the film is made. But kind of coming in there with a good why, I think is fun.
I read that wrong in terms of what this popped up. I read it, who are you? And I'm like, oh, we should have introduced ourselves. But Jill's asking who you are and why you're the right person to write the script. Yeah.
Right. I like that. And also why you kind of like you felt compelled to write it, because we all know that this isn't an easy process. It's not as if you got 5 minutes. Oh, I've got 5 minutes. I'll just jot that screenplay down. It's a long, hard, arduous journey ahead of you, without any guarantees. It's the most. You really have to believe in it. So, in order to even begin to start the process, why did you? What was it? Why did you feel the need to share this story?
Yeah. You really touch on the feels, whatever those feels might be. It's funny. Felicity and I wrote out a few topics thinking we're going to have to fill in some space or whatever, but look at all the questions we have.
Oh, it's so great to have these questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. You want to do Sharon's? Sharon Black. This question we may not be able to answer perfectly for you, Sharon, just to be honest, but I wrote a true story, Native American script. Our producer's shying away from them. No luck in getting anyone interested.
It's a complicated piece of the business right now. It'll be the thing that will make it pop more than anything is your relation to the story. So if you are Native American, then I think there are a lot of initiatives for Native American writers. And if you are Native American, you should be finding those and kind of submitting to that. There are also a lot of diversity initiatives. We have our own one, a free diversity initiative. And so if you're female, that's still considered diverse because there are so few. There are less women writers than there are male writers that have been produced. So you're still considered diverse even as a female writer. I think there's just sensitivity to who is telling the story and the authenticity behind it. I also know that we have one of our development slate writers, Michael. He has a Native American story. He is not Native American. However, the producers he is working with do have Native American ties, and they have there's a big promise in the pitch deck about making sure it's very authentically and delicately and truthfully told. So it's going to have checks and balances to make sure, and it's not exploitative. It's actually a story that means something and is going to help enlighten us as viewers.
Yeah. We have a cat monster walking on Felicity's shoulder. Just to go a little bit further on Sharon's question, I will say I don't think they're shying away from just as a whole Native American stories. I don't think that would be true. There are a lot of reasons as to why someone may not connect it with material. It could be purely budgetary. Maybe they feel like the hook of the story isn't quite big enough from a marketing standpoint. There are so many reasons why it may, not connect with people. But there are stories of writers who have shopped scripts around for literally a decade or more until finally it found a home. So I wouldn't in any way, shape, or form give up on the story, Sharon, especially if you believe in it. I would just, if nothing else, if you can't get people interested right now, put it down, work on something else. You never know the timing, like when a script's time has come. We really don't have control over that.
Yeah. Queen's Gambit was 30 years.
30 years.
So
yeah.
He optioned the book and had it for 30 years before it got that amazing. And it was worth it. It became his life's work. That's the trouble with art, though. If you have a story to tell, you can't help it. Yeah, and Fancy Dance, we saw that at Sundance. It was really great. And it was Native American filmmakers, Native American cast. And they had a lot of support there. And actually, we went to their panel and it was amazing. They had a prayer ceremony. It was incredible.
I mean, personally, if I were actively producing films, I would hope to find a really incredible story about Native Americans, plural, or one Native American. I mean, I think that their stories need to be shared and told. So I don't think it's just the content that they may be passing. But let's move to Eric's question. So he's kind of a funny little, good voice on Eric here. I can see who Eric is with the upcoming writer's strike.
Photo and then the question.
Right. Yeah. Can I work as a filthy non-union scab? And is it easier for non-union people to enter the industry at this time? Also, will I regret it? I don't know if it would be easier. I don't think you'd regret it. You got to get your experience. But the writer's strike is not going to last forever. And so, if there are non-union shoots and you got to work, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There will be non-union shoots going on, regardless of whether there's a writer's strike. But I don't know if that necessarily needs to be like, here's my angle, but it also depends on what you're trying to do. If you are considering yourself like, I'm a non-union writer, will that help me? Maybe not, because really the industry will probably shut down in a lot of ways throughout, because most productions are union productions.
Yes. we are finding for the development slate, which is the team I run for the ISA, that we are going to be able to set up some meetings where a production company is going to meet with writers, read some scripts, and they will have some time to do that. And that is not going against anybody. That's just basically allowing work to the kind of work to continue. That means these writers, when the writer's strike is over, can then start working again. Also, it doesn't stop you from writing at home and doing your own stuff. You know, it's a time to get your portfolio together. It's a time to make sure that you've updated all your your scripts. Have you got a pitch deck and everything? Yeah, I would say be very careful about it. I wouldn't condone really crossing any picket lines personally, because as someone who is part of SAG-AFTRA, you know, the whole reason why they have any power is if everyone goes along with it. If people break it, then actually there's no bargaining power.
Yeah.
And actually you in the end, and you know, it's the reason why children stopped working in factories and people started getting Sundays off, and it was the unions. So,
yeah.
You know, not to be too strong about it, but I think, you know what feels right to you.
Yeah. I think those comments that Scott shared are perfect. So there you go, Eric. See, we weren't able to necessarily perfectly answer the question, but our fellow writers were able to give you more of an answer. Joanna is asking, can you choose which free screenplay competition you enter?
There are 4 selected for you. So no, but you can choose whether you're going to enter that contest or not.
Well, what Joanna means is that as a Connect member, you have 4 free contests through the ISA that you can submit to.
Yes, yeah. I know, but you can't choose which one it's going to be. You are there. They come. It's fast track, or it's emerging screenwriters, or it's, you know, you are told this is the free contest. You don't get to choose. Right.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But, you know, the thing is, there are certain things that maybe your work is kind of better for. But I would say throw your hat in the ring anyway. Sometimes they do a deal on notes, and that's quite a good way to see where your script is standing. I'm so sorry, Benji. I don't know what the next one is. That I'd have to find out. I don't run that bit. But you can see where your script is standing if you get through. Is it a quarter-finalist script, or is this a semi-finalist script? And if it has some notes, what are some things that might need some attention? Or is it a finalist script? The only way you're going to find out is if you enter it. And if it's free, what have you got to lose? So I would go like, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw a little question pop up from Jeffrey. Do you need to be a typography expert to be a successful screenwriter? I think the quick answer is no. I do think you need to have a strong sense of words, you know, wordsmithing, and being able to arrange sentences in a way that feel, you know, inspiring and emotional and meaningful, because the only paintbrush we have are letters and words. And so the best way to become good with constructing sentences, unlike me currently, is read. You gotta read so much. If anybody hasn't read the book by Stephen King on writing, please find that book and read it. It's about this thick. You could read it in an afternoon, and it's so inspiring because Stephen King doesn't hold back. He's just, here's how it is, you know.
Yeah, and I think you have to read books as well, not only screenplays.
Totally.
You know, I mean, you actually have to kind of, and depending on the tone and the genre of your script. I'm sorry if I sound a bit nasally. I realize that. Then actually how you write your action scenes and the voice you give your characters is very much on the page. So you want to know that all these different have examples of seeing and being inspired by other people doing it really well.
Yeah. Benji is asking, should you wait until you have contest highlights before you send your cold intro emails to reps or production companies?
I don't think, it's weird, isn't it? You don't really want to burn them. You know, it's a difficult thing, as in, like, you get one first impression. So I would say if it's someone that you are madly in love with, and that you like it's your total, you've reversed engineer your career and you've thought about where you want to be, and this is the kind of manager or agent that is going to really help you on that, then maybe, because it has so much importance, don't start there. Maybe start a bit lower down the totem, that like a bit down the tree, further down the tree, not totem, further down the tree, and kind of just see if you can find someone that is where you're at right now.
Yeah, I think I'll take a little bit of a stance of, and this is going to sound like a hard line, and it isn't at all, but I do want us to at least consider the idea of this. Managers and agents are not as important as we may be making them out to be sometimes. What I mean is that, yes, of course, we want to have representation eventually, but that does not make your career. It doesn't mean once you have representation, your career's set. Everything's going to work. They're going to find you jobs. Everything's great. It's the beginning of your career. Now the work really begins. And you need to be hustling even more, and you need to be knocking down doors, and you need to be doing 90% of the work, because your agent or manager is receiving, they're receiving 10%. You could argue they're doing 10% of the work. So in a lot of ways, what I want to say is you don't need a manager or an agent. Eventually, it will help you, but it's not the be all and end all.
There's so many things you could do for yourself beforehand.
Yeah. And
really, that's what you should be doing. You can make friends with a manager or agent in the meantime, find them on social media, congratulate them when things happen, watch them on deadline. You can set it up on IMDb Pro that you can watch certain people and they'll let you know if there's an article about them come out. So do that, so that you're kind of like, I love what you're doing, kind of be a fan, just so that they know you, so that when you're finally ready, you can be like, okay, I feel, do you have 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to Peter's question, and my big question is, with the potential strike looming, is this a bad time to be querying? It's a really good question. I would say no, it's not a bad time, but I think you would take a different approach and be very easy with not hard selling anything, just kind of checking in. And you may even be able to ask them that question, but you don't want them to have an easy answer of no. You could say, I'm trying to, I'm in the midst of this level of success. If you're looking for new writers, I would love to communicate and see, what kind of projects you're looking for. Or it's just a very simple email kind of query, as opposed to, here's my log line, here's the synopsis, here are all the attachments. Like, don't do that, especially now. Because they're going to be focused a lot more right now on their current clients to try to get all of their clients' work. Once the strike happens, it may be different. Maybe they'll be looking to bring on a new client or two. But because no one knows how long the strike is going to last, a lot of reps will be a little hesitant to sign someone, because it's going to be difficult to get meetings for that person.
I agreed. But it is at the same time, it might be a little bit of respite for them, where they can actually meet a few new writers. So when it's all done and dusted, they've got a bit of fresh blood on their roster. Yeah. So I think the thing is, you can never say, you can argue both ways. But I think it's always, that's Max's cat.
Archie's coming to say hi.
So like, we're obviously the cat fans. But I think putting your hat in the ring and saying, I'm interested in you, so that they know your name. And you have a very original name, Peter. Hi, Peter. Peter's on the development slate. I know your work. Very good. It's not a bad thing, but being gentle about it. I actually had someone today from a Sundance. They produced a Sundance movie that was picked up and sold for a lot of money. Not this Sundance, the Sundance before. And we had a conversation with them, and I suggested a few writers to them. And he asked to see 3 scripts. I suggested 5 writers, and he wanted to see 3 of those scripts. And he just said, can you give me a bit of time, because everything's a bit crazy right now, because they're trying to get everything done before May the 1st, which is the day, the deadline. They're trying to work on everything they have, so it's as done and dusted as it can be completed. And then there might be a bit of a moment there. So write your email.
Yeah. No need to continue. I agree. But Jill posted a nice little comment of let's be positive and hope that we don't have to strike. Agreed. There's a chance that we won't. It's just, people kind of go to the worst case scenario prep stage sometimes. But next question from YIWOTY. I apologize for not being able to pronounce this, but it's a good question. Is a PDF for Movie Magic Screenwriter an acceptable submission format? It's interesting because I used to use Movie Magic Screenwriter, and I actually liked it better than Final Draft. But I think what they're doing is just converting it into a regular PDF. And that's a totally fine submission format. In general, if and when you are submitting material, make sure it's just in PDF format. Don't send the actual Final Draft file or the Movie Magic file, because not everybody's going to have the same exact software or the newest versions. The PDF is always the way to go.
Yep. Okay.
Samuel, question. I have 3 scripts written, copywritten, and ready to get coverage. The issue, I can't afford professional coverage at the moment. Should I wait and start sending out my scripts? Don't start sending out your scripts. Definitely get notes on them. I get it, Samuel. It's difficult if you can't afford the notes. I will say, and I try to bring this up as often as possible. Coverage is a very different form of feedback compared to development notes from like the development slate. If you could afford $149, maybe you can't. But if you can, the ISA's development slate notes are awesome. You get 5 pages of notes. They will also consider it. Is this something that could be, shepherded to Felicity in the development slate? But coverage is something very particular and specific to production companies and studios. Like that's where the term comes from, because what it is it's the junior executive or even an assistant writing out a full breakdown of the script with light notes and really just kind of like a check mark for is dialogue good, is structure good, so that person can then send it up the line to his or her boss, so that person, that so-called boss, does not need to read the screenplay. And so I'm just doing a terminology check. Consider it more of a notes request that you're looking for, because you want someone to read the script to point out what's working, but then also point out the things that need enhancement.
Yeah, I was going to say I would start entering for free contests, because you have nothing to lose with that. And then you can add on notes for those. And I know that the 149 does not cover 3 scripts; it's per script, Samuel, just so you know. But you can add on the notes, and they're actually very reasonable, I think, for notes coverage as part of a screenplay entry. And if the screenplay entry is free anyway, then getting notes on top of it will only be a smaller amount to add on. And I think even if you enter the free contest, you'll start to know is there work still to be done on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you submit, it would be cheaper to submit to 3 contests, or submit all 3 scripts to 1 contest, relatively speaking, depending on the contest. But anyway, and it's a good test of your material. If you're not making to the quarterfinals, that means there's probably some work that the script needs. Obviously, you're not getting notes back to know exactly what the work is that is necessary, but it's also sometimes cheaper to then add on notes through a contest than it is to send it to a consultant and get notes from them. 149 for our note service is it's probably at the bottom of costliness across the industry. But they're really good, I will say. Yeah.
And I saw Robert said, what if the notes are no good? Then I think if the notes are no good, I wouldn't go back to that company. We actually pride ourselves on being, we have a reader manager and consultant, and he works with some very big companies alongside the ISA, giving notes and coverage and working in development. So we've actually worked very hard to make ours good and reasonable. And Zin, you're right. And I think it's with your question too. You say with most money in industry being made by people offering services to writers and paid options, accomplishing anything beyond the occasional award, what is the point of feeding the beast? And in your own point here about really wanting talent, the thing is it actually costs time and money to read scripts. even production companies and agents and managers, someone is paying for that manager or that assistant to read your script. We try and make it. I mean, Craig, the founder of the ISA, I don't think he honestly would give everything away if he could. He is, to try and ask him to charge, this is a free event, for example. I mean, it's, he really wants to help screenwriters. And I think that, there are some places that it's different. It's a bit more cynical. So you have to choose where you spend your time and where you do put your money. But that's down to you. That's your choice. No one can make you spend the money if you don't want to. I honestly know that every penny that kind of for ISA Connect goes into paying our wages and kind of keeping the ISA afloat as we try and help more writers. But again, you have to do what feels good for you at the end of the day. We want it to be of value.
I think that's a good way of saying it. You have to do what you feel comfortable doing. I get it. What Zin is saying, that it does feel like it's a pay for play situation. However, I am of the mind that if you are dedicated to creating a career for yourself, almost regardless of the industry you want to work in, you have to invest in yourself in some way. And most often that's through education. And so that's why, I'm a consultant, and part of Zin's comments about, with most of the money being made through, the note services and stuff, I can guarantee you that most of the money is not being made through the consulting and note services in the industry. But the focus really needs to be on how worth it is it for me to do this. And obviously not everybody has the funds to be able to invest in yourself, but you can invest in yourself in some way. And even if that's just reading as many scripts as possible. Do you absolutely need notes from these quote unquote so-called experts? No, you can get notes from fellow writers. You can get notes from writing groups. There are online communities that you could probably find, but you do need to get feedback from other people, because we as creative people become too connected to the projects that we're working on. We get married to the material as if this is the scene, this is the right, act, and this is how I want this scene to end. This is the right line of dialogue. It may not be. And it's okay if it isn't. I mean, what are you going to do once you actually get a project set up and a producer is going to tell you, we've got to change this? Are you going to say no? So it's a lot to think about, but it's a good topic to discuss. Jill is saying, I trust my gut and ask other screenwriters for feedback in my accountability group. Use my funds to go to festivals and entering good contests. It's all about investing in yourself in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Celeste is asking, is ISA still offering mentorship, or is the fellowship now replacing that? I've been writing for a long time, but I'm looking for help with a specific repeating problem in my work.
We have the Diversity Initiative, which is a free contest to enter. Well, it's an initiative. It's not a contest. It's a free initiative. So maybe you could put your script forward for that. We don't actually have a mentorship program, though.
Right, that's what I was thinking. So the fellowship is the primary form of mentorship. Although aren't there some other contests that the ISA offers that do set up a meeting or two with people?
You do actually, yes. That's a part of the prize for emerging screenwriters and Table Read My Screenplay. However, it's not a mentorship. It's just a hello, how you doing? How can I help you in the industry? Kind of thing. Rather than I'm going to. Some people read the script, but it tends to be more general than that.
Yeah. Darlene is saying, is the new poor man's copyright when you send a PDF of your script to someone and they download it? Ooh, I have not heard of that.
I mean, I guess it does show proof that you have it. You've got an email, you've got a paper chain, and that's what you're going to need at the end of the day. It's a paper chain.
So I guess you could say that. The word copyright is tricky, though, because very little of a screenplay can be fully copywritten. It's difficult, and I'm not a lawyer, so please don't take my advice as 100% true, but it's difficult to fully copyright an entire screenplay. So even registering it with the WGA, you're not going to be fully protected in case some jerk does decide to steal your content. But it, like Felicity's saying, it does say, I sent this script out to this person at this time, and it's this draft, etc. So it does, you do have a little protection there.
In the end, you tend not to win, because if it's a really big company and they made loads of money, then you can't afford to fight them. It's so sad but true. But there we go.
Yeah, let me see.
I'm
going to scroll random. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. I'm going to screw up Scott here. At 7:16 p.m., Scott, Jill Hargrave. Because contests are so subjective, is being named a semi-finalist worth talking about? Good question. Did you want to answer that first, Felicity?
I mean, like, some more than others. I think you're right. You know, some have a bit more weight in the industry, as in the people that are looking for. But again, I feel like every contest has a kind of style and tone to it, from film festivals as well as writing contests. So a semi-finalist in one might not mean anything to someone else, but actually in a horror, for example, a horror thing, you're a semi-finalist there, and there's like people looking for horror scripts, and they're going to love it. Do you know what I mean? Nicole, as we know, always good. But I think you should celebrate all semi-finalists wins. Actually, I think you should celebrate it all.
I think you should be happy that you make any round in any screenplay contest. When I was coming up into the industry, I worked for some very hard knocks type of bosses who had zero filters, and they would just tell it how it is, probably a little too opinionated in a lot of ways, and probably egotistical to the point of, thankfully, the industry doesn't allow that anymore. But I do remember a lot of things they said, and one of them said, if you get a quarterfinalist placement in a contest, I don't give a damn. That's a little harsh. You should give a damn, because it shows there's something that's working. But in terms of promoting that, I understand what he's saying. It's not as big of a deal. In a way, if you're working through this career in this industry as a screenwriter, you should expect to get quarterfinal. That should be a level of, okay, cool, let's next. You should hold yourself to a high standard. In terms of promoting that, just like Felicity was saying, it does depend on the contest. Jay Johnson, 7:14 p.m., Scott. Good question. Is breaking in as a non-LA based writer easier post-COVID with the prevalence of Zoom now?
I think the internet's made things easier in general for people to communicate with each other. So I think I mean, people are having writers' rooms remotely, but they are also going back and doing writers' rooms. So I think for having a meeting, it means you don't have to fly cross country. You know what I mean? So if someone is actually interested in having a general with you, and you're in New York and they're in LA, then how easy is it that you can jump on a Zoom, and then if you do really kind of like each other, then suddenly it's worth the plane ticket, and you can have another conversation after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the easy answer is yes, it is. If you intend on being a staff writer on a show, you're probably going to have to be in Los Angeles. But breaking in and getting noticed, yeah, it's like you're saying, it's a lot easier to take a meeting now than it was, even 5 years ago. Let's see. Excuse me. Miriam is asking about the website. 7:13 p.m. Who can I contact regarding navigating the new site? I'm ISA Connect, yet my page is not current. Stuff I wrote and posted vanished. I could use some help. Definitely email. Should we just give them directly to the source, or just have support@networkisa.org is the easy email address, Miriam. But since you're working with me through the Story Farm, email me too, and I can forward it on to the right person.
Yeah, and maybe even give a bit of a clue. I mean, it's supposed to be actually more user-friendly. So yeah. I wonder if you have two accounts, because sometimes people have two accounts on the site without realizing it on different emails. Not saying that is you, Miriam, but we have had that in the past. So it'd be good to work that out. Because if it's a bug, then please tell us about it, because we're trying to fix all those too. We need your help with those.
Yeah. Just bouncing down, I want to try to find some people we have not heard from yet. Dave Crimble, 7:30. When entering a script, I see on ISA site that you offer all sorts of extra information you can add about your script. Is this something that's a must, and why? I swear, everybody, I did not choose this just because we're talking about the website. I just fell on Dave's name.
You know what? There's people, if you have a pitch deck, people like looking at them. It's a shortcut to your story, and it gives them an idea of tone and genre and style and the kind of characters that are going to be in it, and what it's really about in a little snapshot, rather than having to read 100 pages. So if you, and also it gets your writerly brain to kind of think about the visuals. What would it look like if you,
Totally.
and you know, and it might actually even help you with some other themes that were kind of hidden in the script, because often you're kind of channeling stuff when you write, and it's only when you start to put it in an orderly fashion that you realize that there's some very delicious and nuanced ideas in there that you need to drag out in a pitch deck. That will all add to its marketability and its, the excitement for an executive having a look at it. The synopsis also actually, I feel like you should at least have a synopsis for every script of yours. Again, it's just a great shortcut if you don't have a pitch deck. But a synopsis is kind of really also, again, for your own benefit as a writer, will allow you to make sure that you've hit all the points you want to hit, and then maybe there even might be something that you go back and revise after writing out your synopsis. So definitely do that. If there is a request for a letter of interest, always add it, because that again shows your connection to the project and to the writer, and they want to see, the producer or whoever's posted the writing gig. Because they might want to see what that connection is to it, what your connection is to your material, what connection is to the project that they are maybe thinking about hiring you for. Mm-hmm. If it's there, add it.
Yeah. We'll go to 7:31 p.m. I'm going to probably ruin your name, and I apologize because I'm American Midwest here, everybody. But I'm going to say Jean Mello. Gosh, I hope I got that right, Jean. What are some of the best competitions to enter, i.e. most legitimate that hold the most weight? It's a really good question. We get that one a lot.
Yeah, you can stop.
The obvious ones are Austin and Nickel, Page, Final Draft, Big Break. Like those are really the top, what did I say, 4 or 5? If you win those contests, then your name will float around town and you'll be noticed. There's zero guarantee, though. We had one of our writers win the comedy category of Austin, and he had 0 people reach out to him, which is mind-blowing, to be honest with you. Very strange. But contests are subjective. But those are the big ones. Fast Track is quickly becoming very well known. It's relatively new compared to some of the other ones, like Austin and Nickel.
I think table read is good if you want to. It's again, they're different things that you want. Table read is great if you want to work with a director. For our table read my screenplay, because you get to work with the director in person, and you get to yes. I think I'm just trying to think. We have done virtual ones as well. Some of that was the plague related, and some of it was just kind of distance. But I think there's one happening in Hollywood this year, and that will be in person. So you get to work in person with the director, you get to work in person with actors, you get to stand your script up, see what it's like. I have to say that if you win one of the ISA contests and you join our development slate, it's not just a 10-minute, oh, here's your money, goodbye, or like, well done, shake, pat your back. There are people on our development slate that I've known now for 7 years. And I have to say that we continue putting them up for stuff. Elaine Lowe was actually that's 2017, I think, or 18. The Table Read My Screenplay Hollywood, and it was Elaine Lowe and Annika Pampel. And Annika's just done an emerging screenwriters interview on the site if you want to check her out. But she's just written a novel. She's got 2 films in production. One of them is one of the ones that we did that she won for the table read. It just shows you how long it takes. But we recently got Annika a original writing assignment we recommended her for from the development slate. Elaine Lowe I put up for a TV show that was happening for 20th Century recently. So the thing I guess that happens at the ISA a bit more is like once you're part of our gang, it's hard. We don't like to let you go. So we're always looking for opportunities to continue helping and giving. I think you just have to curate your contest too. You have to look at the winners. Are they scripts like you? Are they writers like you? People, again, have a culture in contests, same as they do in film festivals. You don't even mean to, but the people that set it up have certain kind of screenplays that they like. It tends to be a pattern. Look for it.
Yeah. Carrie Booth at 7:21 p.m. I feel like I'm a police officer or something going through a case study. Good evening. Is it better to specialize in a genre, i.e. drama, or write a bunch of different ones? I would say, it's going to sound like a lazy answer, Carrie. If you feel like you can't write comedy, don't try to write comedy just because you feel like you need to, diversify your portfolio or something. But yes, I think writing in a bunch of different genres is a good thing. But it's also so relative. Like if you have an idea that you feel is going to be better served as a drama, but you had just written 2 other dramas, write the one as a drama because you know that is serving the story. Basically, like what Felicity was saying, screenplay contests and festivals gravitate towards certain types of material sometimes. So do we as artists. So I wouldn't force it. Whatever serves the story idea.
Yeah, genre mashups have become a little bit of a favorite right now. So maybe you can write that. You can add a kind of a genre element to your drama.
Yeah, right, Robert. Right, what you know. Yeah, comedy's for the funny. Not everyone has a humorous.
Oh, I know. It's so subjective. Much more than a story. I think like making someone laugh is very subjective.
Yeah.
Everyone has the things that make them laugh and what doesn't.
Najo, photography and typewriters, 7:37 p.m. I've had a general meeting with a development exec at a large production company. It was back in January. Should I keep my hopes up for getting writing work from that at this point? You
should keep in contact with that development exec. Basically, you just check in. You don't check in and go like, hey, where's my work? You just kind of go like, I just wanted to update you what's been happening. I've just had a few contest wins. I've been up for an original writing assignment. I saw that you have done this. If they've been doing something recently, if they've had a success somewhere, or they've put a TV show on, or they've had a feature film premiere, just add all that kind of stuff in. Stay in contact. Just go like, hey, just doing my. I always sometimes say I'll go like, just doing my admin, just checking in to see that everything's fine with you, and that everything is well in the world. With the writing strike looming, hope all is well. Something sweet, nice, kind, not pushy. It's fine. And I think keep your hopes up. Yeah, absolutely keep your hopes up.
For sure, keep your hopes up, but also manage the expectations. Is because a general meeting is for the purpose of just forming a new relationship. It's not necessarily to get work now. I'm going to use a terrible metaphor. I don't like fishing. I know Felicity doesn't like it, but it's what popped in my head. If you like fishing, it's fine. But if you have a net this big, how many fish are you really going to catch if you just throw that in the water? But if you have a net that's like, 20 feet by 20 feet, your chances of catching a fish are just that much greater. That's technically, again, as terrible as this metaphor is, that's what relationships are in the industry. The more relationships you have, the more opportunities will eventually come to you because people know about you, and it's a relationship industry, and that's really what general meetings are for. So
I would say though that you need to repair your nets, and that sometimes if you just throw the net in the water and then never pull the net in, then actually it's just as useless as having a tiny net. So you do actually need to stay in contact.
Let's stay on this fishing analogy as long as we possibly can.
And as far as dead fish go, no, I was saying, and you do have another question about deceased actors as inspiration. Sorry, I have no disrespect to anyone that's passed recently. I think take them out. Unfortunately, you need to have living actors in your pictures.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jamie's asking, do I still offer my online story farm classes? Technically, yes, but it's through the craftcourse.com. So they're not technically story farm classes, but I do a lot with the ISA as far as the educational resources. But the craftcourse.com is where you'd find the coursework. Benji, 7:50 p.m. What is the best route to being a staff writer if you haven't worked as one before? Good question. Whew.
It's really hard.
That's a tough one to answer. It's very possible. I think
it's hard to do. It's hard to do. I mean, like, it's hard to be a staff writer. That's the thing.
The trouble with being a staff writer is that it's one of the few what's the term I'm looking for? It's one of the few things in the entertainment industry that does actually have a track. You know, like what I mean is, like, if you want to be a doctor, you study pre-med and then you go to med school and then you get your doctorate and you're a doctor. Like there's a track, you know, to become a doctor. It's not that simple to be a staff writer, but you kind of need an agent to be staffed. It's not impossible. You can not have an agent and still get staffed, but that's pretty much the route. What that means then is that you need to be writing some projects that are really standout. A lot of specs for different shows. You got to be applying to all of the studio fellowships and really working it, forming relationships. There are ways that you could find, you know,
writer's assistant.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
That way.
Writer's assistant, which are not easy jobs to get, but they are possible. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to kind of like, the writers, the assistants in Hollywood have an underground network. They have a document that they share with each other about jobs that are coming up and the stuff that's being looked at. Now, if you're an assistant in a big agency, then you'll have access to that once you're in the gang. And this does have some kind of insight, but it's a lot of hard work and you have to be in there for a certain amount of time. You know, you have to kind of build your way that way. You can also go through the fellowships. There are some really amazing fellowships. Nickelodeon does a good one. Warner Brothers does a good one, where you are literally taken on staff as part of the fellowship. And then at the end of it, if you have done well and proved yourself, then quite often you are then recommended to write on shows. So do have a look at those. Look for free fellowships. I
will say, if you write an amazing pilot or you have this great pitch deck for a really great idea for a show, and you're able to get that show in front of a producer or something, and let's say that show gets set up somewhere, it's likely that you'll be kept on in some form of a consulting producer capacity. They may make you a staff writer, kind of depending on your experience. So I feel bad saying you kind of need an agent to get staffed. It's just because that's normally how it works. But there are ways to find your way into rooms without an agent. It's not easy though. It's tough. Let's see. We're going 4 minutes past. Let's do 2 more questions.
Please excuse me, everybody, that that's why I keep going on mute so that you don't hear me blowing my nose. But I feel like it will be worse for me my nose be dribbling like I'm 5 years old. So this is the.
I feel bad. Felicity's coming down with a cold. Felicity never gets sick, so we should all send our thoughts and prayers.
I was near someone who was coughing a lot the other day, and he was also very hot, as in like he was sweating.
I was going to say this.
And when I say near, I mean I was in close proximity. I wasn't doing it. So now I'm talking myself into a lot of trouble here. I'm just saying I was near someone in a public space who I think had a bit of a cold, and I might have picked up, which is annoying.
Let's see. There was one that just came through. I kind of want Samuel to give a little bit more to his question. 7:57 p.m. Can you be a part of several gangs? I have my eye on a couple organizations. Do you mean like screenwriting organizations? Like,
yeah, that's because I kept using the term gangs. Got to find
a gang. So I think the answer would be yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing because if you're doing query letters to managers, then I think you should not do a scattergun approach. You do something that's very targeted and very specific and you've done your reverse engineering, you've looked at their career and you looked at the writers they have, and you've crafted an amazing email that means something to them and connects you to them. Screenwriting orgs, we can get to that. Then you never would do a scattergun approach. I think you should be very select one after the other. Don't do that same thing one after the other. Screenwriting organizations, I mean, again, it's really up to you about where you want to put your money. I think some are better than others, you know, and some kind of suit one type of writer more than another type of writer, you know. I mean, that's the thing. It is subjective. Again, all art is subjective, right?
Yeah, and being a part of multiple screenwriting organizations, I think it's all part of the education process. Just be careful with how much money you're spending, because it can eventually become very expensive. If you come at all of these organizations as just educational experience, you're going to come out so much better. If you come in with this expectation of, I'm going to use this organization to sell my screenplay, you know, it could happen, but it's just there. You know, you have to have a healthy level of an approach. All right, one more question. Is there anything that you saw, Felicity, that maybe we wanted to do? Let's see.
I actually did like Darlene Smith's one at 7:52. 5 for me, you see.
7:52. Oh, okay. Okay. So if a writer had their first project made like a Hallmark Christmas movie, would that be a good calling card for them?
Yes. If you've had anything made, honestly, it's so hard to get something made. And, you know, people are snobby about that. They can do one, quite frankly. You know, it's writing a good Christmas movie is actually a big skill. So the fact that you've written it and you've had it made is still a great calling card. I mean, there are lots of people who maybe start in their career doing something that they don't want to do at the end of their career, but they're getting in and they're making a name for themselves and they're finding their way and they're meeting producers and they're getting better at their craft. And one day you can bring your passion project that is not a Christmas movie. And you've hopefully met some other producers in the meantime who also have been growing with you. Some people, that's all they want to do. And they find that that is kind of like their passion in their own way, or their money making. And that's all they really want to do with it. But you will meet other people in the way that have bigger dreams, more artistic kind of creative thoughts, different thoughts. Not saying there's anything wrong with a Hallmark Christmas movie. I love them. So, you know, I'm
watching so many of them.
I don't, yeah. I mean, Christmas, I will start. If I could, I would start in July, but I don't, you know, because I really love the Christmas season. Hence, Christmas lights still up. You know, I mean, so there's the people that are snobby about that kind of stuff, you probably don't want to work with them anyway.
I will say, Darlene, it's also a little bit of a branding thing. Like if you're trying to make the switch to Blumhouse horror, letting people know that you've had a Hallmark Christmas movie made is still fine, you know, because you are a produced writer, but they'll be like, okay, you know, they're trying to kind of match everybody with a particular, you know, place. But I don't know if that necessarily is what your plan is, but nonetheless, there is a branding thing that comes into play.
Yeah. No, Scott did just say, can we quickly answer Larry Coleman, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock for you. Is it standard practice for a production company or manager agent to ask for a budget when pitching? It's not standard practice, but at the same time, you kind of know whether, you know, if it's got flying motorcycles, it's going to be 80 million above, right? I don't think it's totally your job as a writer to have worked out the budget. That's not why you write it, but you can still be very conscious of things as you write and you tell your story.
Yeah, little things like considering how many different locations you have in your screenplay. If you have like 35, 40 plus different locations, you're just ratcheting up the cost of that movie. If you have a huge cast, if you have scenes with a whole bunch of people, crowds, of course, special effects, period pieces are usually more expensive. A lot of little things that'll at least allow you to speak intelligently about what you think the budget range is, but I don't think you need an exact budget. For TV, I wouldn't even worry about it. Nobody's going to be asking you what's the budget for this TV series. Like that's kind of silly. I'd be like, You tell me. I'm pitching this idea to you. You know, I wouldn't say that, but features, you should have at least a range. I think this movie can be done for less than 5 million because of this.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it, because I think otherwise after it's a year, an hour, you know, people are like, I put an hour aside and now you're carrying on. So I think we should probably say so long, farewell, Bob Ingram. Thank you so much. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Bob.
Always lovely.
Arlene.
I love your writing, Bob.
I apologize to everybody that put questions in there and we weren't able to get to your questions, but hang on to them. We're going to be doing these more often. We still have a lot of the year remaining. It's only halfway through April, so there'll be a lot more things coming up. I'm going to have a free webinar on April 26th. I'm going to talk about page writing and scene writing. So if you have some more specific formatting types of questions, you can join that. There's nowhere to sign up yet. Just keep an eye out for an Eventbrite email. Lots of other educational things. I'm going to do a 30-day screenwriting challenge in June, just like the one we did in January. I'm not going to be office hours every day, but it will be 3 times a week. You'll get more info, everybody. But keep working hard. You know?
And I'm glad. Thank you, Julesy, for saying that you still care. It's been 5 years and you still care. You know what? You have to keep caring, and you do it for you as much as for us out there. It's for your own heart. It's for your own very difficult therapy that you're doing when you're putting on the page. But you know what? We need your stories. They make such a difference in the world. So keep going. Yeah.
Well said. All right, Felicity, I hope you get some sleep and feel better tomorrow.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. And thank you for the well wishes.
Have a nice night.
Such a lovely community. Thank you. Bye.